Here's a good question from Ron. More, I guess, philosophical than hard legal. So I'll let you take this one first. So I know a lot of dads really struggle going through this process mentally and emotionally, especially when you maybe have a co-parent who's difficult to deal with. What advice would you have for a dad who is struggling with those issues, even though maybe they have a pretty favorable custody arrangement or they have that 50-50 arrangement?
Is the question like if you're having trouble like with your ex?
Yeah,
Like,
so if you're having trouble with your ex, it doesn't feel like maybe you have that 50-50 order, but it doesn't feel that way because maybe he or she, whoever is grasping at that power, what advice would you have for a client who's going through that?
um, eh, limit your communications with the other party. I mean, that's always, step one. I have a good book here. It's called BIFF, and it's a method for texting. Texting. It's specifically written for how to communicate with your ex in high conflict cases. And BIFF stands for brief, informative, friendly, and firm. And so there's like and I have a good friend who's a psychiatrist, and kind of he's going through his own case, and we used to talk about this all the time about how to text, and how to respond to text messages. And I mean, a lot of it is, as hard as is sometimes, not feeding in or taking the bait, and if your ex texts you and, accuses you of something or something like that, you just want to deny it and walk away, and just don't engage. And, a lot of times, when you don't give them the attention they're asking, those texts kind of dry off. If you're in the middle of a suit, you can actually reach out to the opposing attorney, and ask them to take care of that situation. And here in Texas, I mean, attorneys will actually do that. If I reach out to opposing counsel and, man, your client is saying this, and this to my client, I mean, they'll actually go and in certain cases and talk to them. But a lot of it, I think, is just acceptance. That God give me the grant, give me the, help me change the things I can, but grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't. I think that goes back to people that I can tell. I can't tell, but generally speaking, when I have a consult with a new client, the number one indicator of how they're going to do in court is like if I can get a read on how important their ego is to them, someone that just can't let stuff go, and someone who's going to, you know, uh, uh, it sounds bad, but just assert their rights to everybody who, mildly, disagrees with them. I mean, it's just about, I think, letting go and controlling your ego.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that goes for dealing with your situation and for prevailing in court.
I'll say this: you just brought up a huge, I'll say, red flag in trying to get a non-custodial parent where they want to go are the individuals that have egos so large that they can't accept even the smallest concession, even if it's going to move them 10 steps forward. It's that makes it extremely hard when you're not flexible. I always tell people my communication tips. I tell every single client, any consultations, you're going to be brief, you're going to be peaceful, and you're going to talk directly about the child or children. That's it. If they want to go off topic, if they want to demand you take an answer like, okay, I don't agree right now, but I'll think about it, or you just let it go. So brief, peaceful, and directly about the child. But the ego piece, like, yeah, if you're put in a bad situation by the family courts, you cannot have an ego. If you want to get where you want to get, you're probably going to have to make some concessions on things that really don't matter to you. I tell all of our clients, I want you to list 1, 2, 3. What are the 3 non-negotiables you're going to have in this? If it's anything outside of those 3 non-negotiables, we need to be able to have a serious conversation about just letting it go, because
Right.
you aren't going to get everything you want. You're not together with your co-parent for a reason. Um, things have transpired. So to be able to just swallow your pride and say that really doesn't matter can really, really help non-custodial parents move things forward, especially if your co-parent has an ego and
Yeah.
loves to see you concede.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really think that's just the number one thing of, predicting someone's outcome in family court. Because, I mean, the judges, they see this stuff all the time and they can pick up on it instantly through the tones and text messages and through, body language and the tone of your voice when you're testifying. I mean, they can tell if, someone is is not being cooperative just because of ego, or because they don't want to concede. And I tell people when I was litigating my own case, when I communicated with opposing counsel, I started each email with good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If it was the weekend, I would end it with have a nice weekend. If we were walking into court at the same time, I would open the door for them and my ex. And I mean, that's kind of going down a different road, but opposing counsel, yeah, they're going to litigate against you because they're paid to do it. It's their job. But you don't want them litigating against you because they're emotionally invested. They're emotionally charged and they don't like you. Because, I mean, a lawyer, especially a pro se litigant, if a lawyer doesn't like you, a lawyer can do bad things to you, and
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, like pro se litigants, they don't realize it, but I mean, it gets to a point where they're so difficult where it's like, okay, whatever, I'm not wasting my client's money having these conversations with you. I am in front of this judge on a weekly basis. I kind of know what they're going to decide. I'm going to say, do you want to accept this? If not, like I don't need to have discussions with you. That's one of the things that I also find interesting in the group on Facebook in general in these groups. One of the most common questions is, well, does opposing counsel have to respond to my email? No, they don't. There's very few circumstances where they're compelled to respond to your email. And meeting and the bar for them corresponding with you in those situations is extremely low. I will say I've had opposing parties who have been extremely difficult that our meet and confers have been me saying no. One word, two letters, and that met the burden. Like, no.
yeah,
So, I mean, even attorney to attorney, and I as on kind of the other side of the bar, I mean, when I see an opposing counsel that I have a good relationship with, like they'll informally give me a call and say, what's it going to take? And okay, that's reasonable. Let me see what I can do. And they'll come back and say, hey, here's where I got her. Where can you get your guy? And a lot of times that's going to be cheaper. It's going to be quicker, and there's going to be more favorable outcomes for both parties. So, I mean, it's only amplified when you're representing yourself that you have to be professional. You have to be courteous because you're not going to be able to have those conversations if not.
yeah, no, definitely. And it goes for opposing counsel. And, I tell clients that goes for anybody in your life right now, because anybody is a potential witness, and, you can't go to school and demand school records, can't go to the doctor and be ugly to them. You've got to be polite, courteous to everybody in your life,
We just won a case because dad was polite and courteous to the dentist and always took the new court order to the dentist office, was friendly to the front desk staff. And so he would get the text messages of when appointments were. He was on all the records. Well, then the front office, one of the ladies in the front office was willing to wrote a declaration saying like, no, when dad showed up, mom was the one who lost her cool. Mom went crazy. And mom's whole spiel for a domestic violence restraining order was dad showed up to attack her. But then we had the front office staff at the dentist office saying like, no, dad's the nicest guy in the world. He always keeps us informed. He's always attentive to the child's needs. And mom ended up getting hit for $5,000 in attorney's fees. So it's like being nice to people like that costs you nothing, and it's only going to be net positive.
Yeah, man, that's a great example because, say in that situation, if dad was on somewhat of a bad relationship with them, called and demanded records or something, even if, mom did come in and was harassing dad, maybe they wouldn't write something in favor of dad, you know.
They
But I
called
mean,
our
if dad,
office. They called our office and offered. That's how nice he was to them. And that's what it got him full custody.
yeah, and if they had a problem with dad, they might not lie for mom, but they're not gonna help dad out, you know, and
Yeah.
give them this, you know, affidavit. And so, yeah, man, I mean, that's a great example of how all those little, just being nice to everybody, helps your case tremendously, you know, in ways you don't even know.
Yeah. Being nice to the courtroom assistant, the judge thinking positive, like those things matter. But I mean, those people around you can make such a huge deal because I'll tell you as an attorney, and I'm sure you have the same experience. A lot of times these neutral third parties want nothing to do with a court case unless they feel compelled by how they've been treated by one party or the other.
Yep, absolutely true. Yep.
All right, so we're coming up here on an hour. What I want to do is, so you are in the Houston area. What counties in Texas do you practice in?
I do Harris County, Galveston County, Brazoria County, a little bit of Montgomery and Fort Bend. Really, the area is kind of between Houston and Galveston.
Okay, so you're between Houston and Galveston, and then where is the best place for our viewers to reach you if they're in that area looking for representation?
Yeah, I'm with Goldsberry and Associates. That's my law firm. We have offices in Pearland and Texas City, and getting one going um, in Houston. But just Google Goldsberry and Associates. I also have a Facebook page that used to be for my solo law firm. Now it's kind of a unused blog, but it's Ben's Law Blog. You find me there and shoot me a question, you know, directly.
Awesome. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us tonight, sharing your knowledge. Thank you for your years of effort and fighting for dads and non-custodial parents. As we wrap up here, do you have any one little nugget of advice you would give to all those parents that are struggling through the system right now?
Man, I would just kind of echo what we just said. And, you know, when you're a pro se litigant and you can't compete with the other attorney in terms of, you know, evidence and knowing the law, but, you know, you have your one greatest asset that you don't need to go to law school for. And that's just being nice to everybody. Because if a judge likes you, he'll bend over backwards, you know, to even bend the law to give you what you want. So, man, just be nice to everybody. And if you can't do that, you know, some people can't do that. Just don't be mean to people. You know, I mean, that's a huge thing right there. If you can just remind yourself not to be disrespectful to the judge. I mean, family court is all about who's the bad actor, you know, so be
Definitely,
nice.
definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you. So, Ben Beveridge, Houston, Texas area, Goldsberry Law. Reach out to him if you're looking for representation. I am Mark Reel. We will be back again live next Thursday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, on State of the Family Courts. Everybody take care.